having worked with the Jospon Group for 7.5 years, I know that they are the leading waste management company, Zoomlion and the rest. And you look at the equipment stock, the investment that has been made by Dr. Siayo Japan, the rest of the team there, Charlie, they just make it worthwhile. I tell you, there's no kids play or child's play. And then also, Randa Shah says that, enjoying this. I'm waiting for the thought leadership, Randa and the Shaws. Wishing you all the best for the day as well. We'll be going to Alfredo Kanse, Labadi Beach Hotel, very much live, but we'll see how that goes when we're ready for that. Pete Tengi as well, great guy. Good morning to you, senior. Wishing you all the best for the day. And you're saying Katasco is in the NMSQ this evening. Jolali, okay. Follow him out, school. We'll see how that goes. But we're taking a break. We'll be right back, okay? Everything would have been lovely.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for making the time to join us this morning. And welcome to the Media General Thought Leadership. And this thought leadership, the second this year we've seen, is on waste management. The focus today of our conversation, very, very important one for that matter, is the National Waste Summit, which we're focusing on how to turn waste from the perception of being seen as rubbish into resource. There is money in waste, and that's the kind of perception that we want to change, and then also get the conversation about seeing waste differently or from a different perspective in this country. So if you're joining us right now on TV3, you're not late. The train is just about taking off. Welcome to the National Waste Summit organized by Media General. That's the umbrella body for TV3, 3FM, Onia FM, Connect FM, 3news.com, Onia TV, and also Akoma FM and APL3news.com. My name is Alfred Okanse. I will be moderating this National Waste Summit for the next couple of hours ahead of us, as we engineer the conversation about changing the perspective of how we look at waste in this country. We generate a lot of waste in this country, so we know that if we're seeing it as a resource, there's a lot of money we can make out of that. So welcome, and thank you so much for making the time to be here. Let's put our hands together for ourselves, please. Wonderful. Thank you so much. We'll start off with some opening remarks, essentially officially welcoming you to this National Waste Summit. And please help me make welcome the group GM for the 3 Group Media General, that is Madam Akofa Bunsen. Let's put our hands together for her. Please put your hands together. She's my boss. I have to get an increase. It depends on how loud your clap is. Let's put our hands together for her, please.
Thank you, Alfred. Good morning, distinguished guests, government representatives, captains of industry, sustainability champions, and innovators. It's an honor to welcome you all to this year's Thought Leadership Summit, a forum that reminds us that shaping the future is not about predicting what's next, but about choosing what's worth building. Our theme, Filtering the Future, Plastic, Waste, and Wealth, captures that perfectly. It challenges us to rethink the linear systems we've lived with for decades, make, use, and discard, and instead, to design models that retain value, restore ecosystems, and reward innovation. Today, waste is no longer just an environmental concern. It's a strategic economic frontier. Around the world, governments are setting circular economy targets. Corporations are re-engineering production lines, and innovators are turning discarded materials into profitable resources, from energy to consumer goods. In Ghana and across Africa, this conversation is particularly urgent. With rapid urbanization and a youthful population, our choices today will define whether we inherit a sustainable economy or an unsustainable burden. That's why gatherings like this matter. They bring together the very people who can influence systems, policymakers, business leaders, recyclers, investors, and communicators to exchange ideas and align action. As a media group, we see ourselves not just as storytellers, but as catalysts for national transformation. Through platforms like this, we aim to amplify solutions, influence mindsets, and inspire both citizens and institutions to see that sustainability is not a cost, it's an investment in resilience and growth. So as we begin today's discussions, let's look beyond the problems of waste and plastic and focus instead on the opportunities they conceal. Because in filtering the future, we're not just cleaning up the planet, we're building the next economy. So thank you, and I look forward to the powerful insights that will emerge from today's discussions. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Wonderful insights, a powerful one that we're going to expect in the next few hours ahead of us. Thank you. Let's put our hands together again for Madam Akofa Bunsen, General Manager, 3 Group Media General. Thank you. Thank you so much for setting the ball rolling. And I want to say thank you to our sponsors who together have also come to support us to put this all-important conversation together. I want to say thank you to ADB PLC, Beyond Banking, also to Dalex Swift from Dalex Finance, Lakeside Estates, and Haptel. Thank you so much for all the support. Let's put our hands together for our sponsors. Thank you. Thank you very much. We're going to hear from our chairperson for this conversation this morning, which we call the National Waste Summit. And to introduce the chairperson for this gathering this morning, please let me make welcome my colleague, Beatrice Edu. Let's put our hands together for Beatrice.
Thank you very much, Alfred Okanse. And what a great time to be here and to have this conversation. And just being reminded of what Elizabeth a former author, said about the need for us to deal with waste. But without much ado, please help me welcome the Greater Accra Regional Minister, Linda Abena Ohiniwa Obiniwa Oklu. And I would just want to read just a little bit about her, the Greater Accra Regional Minister, who is our chairperson for the occasion today. Indeed. Thank you very much once again. And the Honourable Obiniwa Akwetoklu is a 3-term Member of Parliament for Shai Osudoku in the Greater Accra region, known for her declaration to improving the lives of her constituents since 2017. Now, with a strong foundation in banking and finance, she holds degrees in management studies and banking and finance, and is pursuing an MBA as well. She is also a multilingual and personable leader, fluent in 5 languages. She combines her professional excellence with passion for cooking, singing, swimming, making her a respected and influential Ghanaian in Ghanaian politics. Ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, please help me welcome the Honourable Minister for the Greater Accra region, who is our chairperson for today, Madam Linda Oklu, with a round of applause.
Wonderful. And please, let's put our hands together. We're acknowledging our chairperson for indeed accepting to chair this occasion. She is preparing to give us a speech shortly. That is to also acknowledge and indeed accept to be our chairperson for today. She's putting together that speech and will be with us shortly. Want to also acknowledge the presence of a number of persons who have also taken some time to be with us. Say thank you to Nabil Adumata, Director, Partnerships, Entrepreneurship and Investment, Ghana Climate Innovation Center. Let's put our hands together for Nabil. Also, want to say thank you to Engineer Solomon Noy Ajiman Nuete, Director, Waste Management Department, Accra Metropolitan Assembly, AMA. Thank you. There you are. Thank you so much. Also, want to say thank you to Ama Ofori Enchi, Executive Secretary, Environmental Services Providers Association, ESPA. That's Ama here. Ama will be joining us shortly. And then we also will be joined shortly by Dr. Gameli Hodefia, who is a policy formulation, policy planning, budgeting, monitoring, and evaluation in terms of the Interministerial Committee under the Office of the President. She's also going to be joining us shortly to share his insights with us on the conversation that we're having this morning. I'll be acknowledging a few more as we go on, but we'll hear from our keynote speaker for this National Waste Summit this morning. She is a distinguished Ghanaian physicist and climate scientist, currently serving as the Chief Executive Officer of the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, of Ghana, following her appointment by the President, John Dramani Mahama, in January 2025. She is the first female full professor of physics in Ghana and the first to hold the position at the University of Ghana, Legon, where she previously served as head of physics department. Internationally, she is the vice chair of Working Group 1 of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Her work focuses on climate modeling, adaptation, and mitigation strategies tailored to Africa, with an emphasis on integrating indigenous knowledge with scientific research. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please, let's put our hands together as we hear from Professor Nana Ama Brown Kluche. Let's put our hands together. She has a recorded keynote message for us. We'll hear from her now.
Wow. Distinguished guests, colleagues, partners, good morning. It's unfortunate I cannot be there in person with you. I still pledge my support for the summit. Thanks to Media General for organizing this summit. On the theme, Filtering the Future, Plastics, Waste and Wealth, we have a question. Can we turn plastic waste into without throwing away our future? At EPA, our answer is yes. If we design for it, finance it, and measure results. Products must be recycled from the start through the extended producer responsibility. Producers help pay for collection and circularity. If it can't be collected or recycled at scale, it should not be on the market. We are backing reliable collection, sorting, and local markets for recyclables, financed transparently, judged by outcomes. Tons collected, recycled, and leaked reduced. Thousands of informal workers power this system. We are integrating them, safer work, fair prices, and traceable payments because dignity builds a workforce that throws up tomorrow. EPA is in the process of operationalizing the extended producer responsibility with rising targets and partner with cities. Let's filter the future so plastics stay in the economy, not in our rivers, and waste becomes wealth shared fairly. Plastic waste can become wealth if we do three things: design products to be recycled, deliver reliable collection and local recycling, workers with dignity, safe air, fair included. EPA is enforcing extended producer responsibility, partnering with city, and publishing public scorecards. Let's keep plastics in the economy and not in our rivers. Thank you, and I wish you all the best in this summit.
Thank you very much. Let's welcome for Professor Brown Cloche, Executive Secretary of the Environmental Protection Authority. That's the Environmental Protection Authority. Thank you so much for this very important message. Waste becomes wealth shared fairly. Imagine that the waste that we are generating in our homes is actually wealth. I recall at some point in this country that governments previous and even the present administration have tried to get us to see this and try and then segregate waste, separate plastic waste from other forms of waste. We put 2 different dustbins in front of our homes. Some of us are still, neck deep in that mindset that we just dump waste and not segregate. We are like Rock of Ages, our minds are made up. But that's why we need this conversation this morning to understand why segregation of waste, in fact, is the first step to creating wealth for our own selves. How many of us haven't seen these persons who come and look through our rubbish or the refuse to take bottles or plastics? It's not for nothing. They are making money out of it. And that's the kind of expansive, progressive conversation that we want to have this morning. How we can upscale while we talk about recycling. We will do upcycling as well, so we make the most out of the waste that we are generating in this country. Please, ladies and gentlemen, shall we rise as we make welcome the Greater Accra Regional Minister? Let's put our hands together. Let's put our hands together as we welcome our chairperson, Madam Linda Klu. Thank you so much for making the time to join us. Right, please take your seat. She's going to give us the speech as our chairperson and accept to chair this summit this morning. Please, let's put our hands together for our chairperson as she comes to give us the speech and then also accept the responsibility of chairing this occasion for the morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you and good morning to all of you. Development partners, media general team, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is with a deep humility and a great sense of responsibility that I accept the honor of chairing this important Circular Economy Summit. I'm truly grateful to Media General for the confidence reposed in me to steer today's proceedings. Ladies and gentlemen, permit me to take this opportunity to commend Media General and the entire team of organizers for their visionary initiative in putting together this summit. Indeed, your commitment to addressing critical issues around waste, health, and well-being through a circular economy lens is truly commendable. As Ghana's leading multi-platform media group, Media General continues to set the standard for excellence, innovation, and leadership, not only in information dissemination, but also in shaping impactful conversations that drive sustainable development across our nation. Your dedication inspires confidence and demonstrates the powerful role media can play in driving solutions for a better Ghana. Distinguished guests, the team featuring the future, plastic health and world could not be more timely. I believe it underscores the urgent need to rethink plastic not as a mere waste, but as a strategic resource capable of creating jobs, safeguarding public health, and promoting innovation. As the saying goes, waste is only wasted when we waste it. This reminds us that what we discard today could be tomorrow's opportunity if we manage it wisely. It is worthy of mention that our government continues to prioritize environmental sustainability and circular economic growth through initiatives such as public-private partnerships and plastic waste buyback schemes. We are transforming sanitation challenges into opportunities for enterprise development and meaningful employment, particularly for our youth. This vision aligns with His Excellency the President John Dramani Mahama's Resetting Agenda framework, which emphasizes efficiency, accountability, and partnership in service delivery. It calls on all stakeholders to collaborate in building cleaner cities, strong economies, and healthier citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, our deliberations today are not merely academic. They represent a call to action. We are being invited to look beyond the challenges of plastic waste and see the vast potential it holds for entrepreneurship, job creation, and wealth generation if only we choose to act wisely. As chairman, I pledge to support a productive and insightful engagement that will lead to actionable recommendations for government, private sector, and civil society. Let us approach today's section with open minds, innovative spirit, and a shared determination to turn waste into wealth and vision into reality. Thank you once again for the honor, and may God bless us all.
Wonderful. Let's put our hands together for our chairperson, the Greater Accra Regional Minister, three-time Member of Parliament, Madam Linda Okulor. Thank you so much for indeed putting out that responsibility for us all to take up. We have open minds, innovative spirit, and a shared responsibility to ensure that we turn waste into resource. And that's the theme for our conversation this morning. So we do appreciate that you also amplify this message and why we should begin to rethink how we see rubbish or waste in this country. Thank you. Thank you so much. We want to acknowledge a few persons who have joined us as well. and then we'll hear from our speaker who is going to set the tone for this conversation this morning. Please, let's acknowledge the presence of Dr. Gamel Hodefia. He is the Executive Secretary of the Interministerial Coordinating Committee on Decentralization under the Office of the President. Please, let's put our hands together for Doc. Doc, please rise and give us a wave. I know you're a very modest man. Let's put our hands together for him. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. We also have the leader of a group of young men who have changed the mindset about young people when it comes to commitment to cleaning the environment. They are leading a campaign not just through talk, but through a lot more action. And they've shown the way. Heneba Kojo Safo is the founder and leader of Bus Stop Boys. Bus Stop Boys. Let's put our hands together for him. Is it that you don't know Bus Stop Boys or you refuse to clap for them? Let's put our hands together for Bus Stop Boys. Great stuff. Heneba, it's good to have you. Thank you. Thank you so much for all you're doing. You'll be hearing from him shortly as we go on. But now we're going to set the tone for this conversation to lay a very solid foundation for the kind of structure that we intend to build with the conversation this morning. Please help me make welcome a good friend of mine. He is the CEO of Dalex Finance, Joe Jackson. Let's put our hands together for Joe. Thank you.
Good morning. Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen, I'm waiting for, yes, I wish you could move the chair so that they see the bottom of my slide. I'm a Ghanaian. So you know what I do? I walk each morning past piles of rubbish. And I fail to see that they are piles of gold. Today I want to talk to you about a trillion cedi opportunity that we are missing. You know what? We are a nation who is paying for someone to bury our gold. That's what we are doing. Ghana produces what? 12,000 plus tons of waste daily. I went to Legon. When I think about it, it means that BAM Library, which when I went to Legon in 1985, was the biggest building I'd seen. Our waste will fill BAM Library every 2 days, and we call it rubbish. You see, our waste is not a sanitation problem. It is a problem of economic failure. And like you see here, instead of seeing rubbish, we should be seeing gold coins. It's sad. Waste. We talk about a waste management system when we should be talking about a waste value chain. We should be talking about, here our waste is fragmented. The informal sector goes around scavenging for waste. The formal sector signs contracts. Organic waste rots, then we import fertilizer. The methane burns, and we import energy. We treat waste like shame. But from the finance sector, I tell you, waste is currency. We go to Kigali, Rwanda. They've turned cleanliness, they've turned recycling, they've turned that into pride. They ban plastics. They compost and energy from waste. They have cleaned cities. You know, Rwanda, it cleaned up its streets and found its pride. What are we doing in Accra? What are we doing in Takoradi, in Kumasi, and all the other cities we have and towns we have? Sometimes we pick our examples from far off. But let's go to Nigeria. Women are leading the national roadmap to reducing plastics. Nigeria is putting women and people from disadvantaged communities right front and center of collecting plastics that are choking its cities, waterways, and rural communities. Rural ladies are doing fantastic stuff. In Nigeria, they are formalized, put into cooperatives, and they are financed. Nigeria is monetizing its mess. We are moralizing our mess. In South Africa, R100 billion recycling value chain employs over 100,000 people directly. That's a $50 billion value chain. You see, that's why I call it a missed opportunity. It's an opportunity that we have. We complain that life is hard. Let's be clear. Waste is a missed trillion cedi opportunity. If we treat it right, it will not be charity. You see, for the private sector, for people like us, we have to finance the waste industry. We have to treat it like we treat housing, real estate, or any other business. After all, it is bankable, it saves the environment, it provides jobs. Why are we not financing it? You see, for entrepreneurs, and I was just sitting close to a young man here, and he says he comes from reusable bags. And I was listening to him, and I said, this is our future. You see, every ton of plastics, and it's a pity you can't see the slides, every ton of plastics that we recycle creates anything between 7 and 11 jobs. And yet, 32% of this country, aged between 15 and 35, who want jobs, don't have jobs. Our nieces and nephews who finished JSS, who want jobs? Nothing. SSS. Our brothers, our sisters, our sons, our daughters, nothing. 32%, including those who have finished the university and after. And yet, we have a trillion cedi opportunity. And in other places, it's micro businesses who collect, micro businesses who deliver. And when we talk about it, listen, there's a circular economy business. Why are we not recycling everything? Why are we throwing away? You know, Ghana is interesting. Informally, people take our waste, export it to China, and we import it back as plastic furniture. What's wrong with us? That's a huge opportunity we've missed. right? And we should have smart policy partnerships. That we should have. Why are we not having partnerships that create value? Every kilogram of waste we keep out of the dump is a CD we keep in this economy. Why do we treat waste companies only as contractors, not as partners in creating value? It's a sad thing. To the government. I like that, madam. As soon as I said to the government, she raised up her head and looked at me. Thank you. Stop issuing permits and start issuing waste licenses that give us value, that have value operations. Policy must reward innovation, not just collection contracts, especially monopolized collection contracts. I live in Tema. I live in Community 6 in Tema. I have an official company that comes for my waste or my gold. And yet, I pay an Aboboya guy every 2 weeks because they never turn up. To the private sector, let's build. Let's prove that recycling can be profitable and that waste can employ thousands. You see, we cannot complain about our unemployment problem and neglect the waste opportunity. And to civil society and media, first of all, I want to say thank you to Media General, for leading this conversation. You are becoming catalysts for our conscience and for change. We ask you to keep asking the uncomfortable questions and keep showing us missed opportunities. As I bring this quick overview to an end, I want you to look at this trillion CD vision. A Ghana where every landfill is an energy plant. A Ghana where every plastic bottle is raw material. A Ghana where every banana peel is compost for local farms. And every waste collector is a proud green entrepreneur. That's not utopia. That's just economics with an imagination. The future of Ghana's waste is not in bins. It is in our balance sheets. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe Jackson. Let's put our hands together for Mr. Jackson once again. Told he was going to be a solid foundation that we needed for this all-important conversation this morning, and he set the ball rolling in a very, very perfect way and making us all think about waste differently and why AMA is here. Let me first establish the presence of AMA so that, Mr. Jackson, the question you ask about your waste company not turning up to TMA, take up your waste and why you're even having to pay for it. There are others within the AMA's jurisdiction that also experience the same challenge. So AMA is here. They'll also help us in also thinking about waste differently as to whether they have a sense of partnership with these companies so that they can benefit from the waste that they come and collect from our homes as well. That's a progressive conversation that we intend to have this morning, indicating that indeed, if we're seeing this as a circular economy, why don't we recycle everything that's recyclable? And waste is bankable, is safe, and easy to collect. Mr. Jackson, thank you very much for these thoughts. Let's put our hands together for him once again. I want to acknowledge the presence of the Group Chief Executive Officer of Media General, Madam Beatrice Ajuman. Let's put our hands together for her. Thank you very much for coming. Also, we have here the Group Chief Operations Officer of Media General, Mr. Nneoma Essien Famia. Let's put our hands together. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. We also have the Group Commercial Head of Commercial, that is for Media General. Mr. Ma is here. Let's put our hands together. Thank you very much for making the time to join us as well. I'll be acknowledging a few more as we go on here, and to let us all, for those of you who are watching us on television, get to know. For the man who controls our finances at Media General, the Chief Finance Officer for Media General, Mr. Albert Gansa, is here as well. Let's put our hands together for him. Thank you. Thank you so much. We kick in the panel conversation, but let me also indicate that our chairperson will be leaving us along the way for another equally important event. So let's keep that in mind. We're live on 3FM 92.7 as well on TV3 and TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on YouTube. For those of you who are watching us virtually, we're quite a number of people who are following this conversation online. Thank you very much. Take your questions as we go on and your contributions as well. We'll go for this quick break. When we're back, we get into the panel conversation for the National Wish Summit. It's live from the Plush Labadi Beach Hotel, Omanye Hall. We will be back shortly after this quick break. Let's put our hands together. Thank you.
Today, we thank you very much.
Waste Summit, and we're live from the Labadi Beach Hotel, Omanye Hall. Let's put our hands together as we acknowledge a few persons. Ni Akon Danson the first, and the Na Akonsa Danson as well have just joined us. He's the chief of Akotwase in the Greater Accra region. He's the director of operations for the Extraction Action Alliance Ghana. Let's put our hands together for Ni Akon Danson the first. Thank you very much. And Na Ofaine Wondaboshi Ake Oba program name Robert Alan Hall is the Chief Executive Officer of the Extraction Action Alliance Ghana. Let's put our hands together for Robert. Also, Emmanuel Neti is the Director of the Extraction Action Alliance Ghana. Thank you very much. Also, Emmanuel Jacob Abe is an engineer, together with others who are here from the Extraction Action Alliance Ghana. Give us a wave. Thank you so much. Cody Aziz is with Environmental 360. She's the founder. Cody, thank you so much for coming. Also, Bismarck Osiakwa is the head of Reusable Bags GH, together with his team. Let's put our hands together for them. Thank you. And quick one, Bismarck is going to show us the evidence of what we've been talking about, or what we intend to do with this conversation with this National Waste Summit. Bismarck is going to show us what they've been doing with plastic, or with the waste that we are generating in this country. Just some few minutes. Bismarck, let's put our hands together for Bismarck. Bismarck will show us. Quick one.
Thank you very much, Media General, for the opportunity. My name is Bismarck Osiakwa from Reusable Bags Ghana. And we've been in existence for the past 7 years. I was so surprised. Most people say they don't know what we do. But at Reusable Ghana, we stand for one solution to find alternatives to single-use plastics. Now, on one end is plastic, because when we talk about waste, we all look at plastics. But one waste we don't look at is clothes, which we have in our closets. And when you go to Agbogloshi, Kantamantoria, old clothes coming in every day. So as an organization, our main focus is to marry these two problems to find a solution. We are talking about circular economy, where we don't want to move in a linear form anyway, but circular. So we transform old clothes into reusable alternatives, which we are calling sustainable alternatives to single-use plastics. We are using old clothes. We are focusing on natural cotton products, which I believe we know we used to produce here in Ghana, fabrics. ATL, Japan, they were producing fabrics, and a few years that they closed down production. So in summary, this is what we do. We do this through education, advocacy, where we are negotiating for policies, and then the last thing is production, where we are upcycling 100 tons of old waste every week, giving us about 2,000 bags every week. And we are talking of job creation. We are talking of building businesses for these local artisans in Agbogloshi and Kantamanto, and also creation for the youth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Wonderful, Bismarck, thank you. And Bismarck sets the tone for our panel conversation. Please help me make welcome Nabil Edumata, the Director of Partnerships, Entrepreneurship and Investment, Ghana Climate Innovation Center. Let's put our hands together for Nabil. Thank you. Thank you very much. Also, Dr. Gameli Hodefia. Let's put our hands together for Doc. It's with the Office of the President. Thank you so much, Dr. Gameli. Also joining us, Heneba Kojo Safo, founder and leader, Barstop Boys. Barstop Boys. Please. Thank you very much. We also have Joe Jackson is going to be joining us as well. Again, let's put our hands together for Mr. Jackson. Wonderful. Thank you very much. And with you, our audience, shortly would come to you for some more questions for them. We also have joining us Engineer Solomon Ajiman Noete, Director, Waste Management Department, Accra Metropolitan Assembly. Engineer, kindly take a seat right there. for me. Thank you very much. And I was talking about AMA, and Mr. Jackson earlier made the proposal of using the waste companies not as waste collectors, but as partners for wealth generation. Is there some thinking like that going on at the AMA for this kind of progressive outlook for the waste that we generate in this country?
Yes, Okanse. So we are into partnership with a number of innovators and private individuals in this particular direction. One I can say is just recently, you heard we launched what we call waste pyrolysis project to manage plastic waste. And this we are thinking of getting the possible plastics, as with the exception of PVC pipes and styrofoams. All the others will be converted back into usable fuel. And this is the direction in which we are thinking. But to do that, there are a number of things we have to do. And maybe as the conversation starts, we may break down these things together. Otherwise, in the current state in which we are, going through that vision is very, very difficult.
So just give me one or two of the number of things we have to do, because it appears you have an idea.
So first, our management practice as a whole in the country is not the best, where we commingle every waste together, as Mr. Jackson was speaking. We can't put organic waste into plastics, everything mixed in one bin. That is not the best practice, because there is no machine anywhere in the world that can get rid of the contamination of the organics. For instance, once you put organic material into a bin and you cover it, it will tend to hydrolyze. It will be turning into liquid.
Okay.
If you have used battery, I'm just giving examples. You put the used battery in that one bin, all the black carbon and then the lead will leach into the cabbage and everything else in there. Now, if you give that waste bin to a machine, material recovery facility, as we are practicing now, there is no way these contaminants can be gotten rid of by the machine. It is only a human being that can do that through source separation. So we are starting with two ways of separation: wet waste and dry waste. By that, we can capture the organics separately, and then the material recovery facilities will now be very efficient. Because instead of lining up 12 bins, the material recovery facilities will now take up the dry waste and break them into the different components. And then the off-takers, upcyclers, recyclers will now come and take clean, recyclable materials. That is not the end. No matter what you do, there will be residual of this waste.
I see.
It will come to its end of life. Landfilling is not the best. Landfilling is a must, but that is not the required when it comes to the sanitation ladder. We need things like waste incineration plants. So that especially healthcare waste that you cannot recycle. You cannot do anything because there are pathogens associated with it. Will get the pathogens end of life happening in the furnace of a waste incineration plant. Then you can turn the heat energy from the waste incineration plant into electrical power for production of electricity, or if at best, you can limit the electricity bit down and use it for your sanitation.
So you seem to know a lot. The question of mine is why you have not been doing this all this while. How long have you been with the AMA?
So how long?
After knowing all this, why are you not doing what you are saying?
Why we are not doing is the finance bit. In this country, sustainable financing is not the policies that we have turned out over the years. For instance, Okanse, any product that you buy, anything, there should be a deliberate policy where some pesos, 20 pesos, 10 pesos, should be slapped on that product, which should go to take care of the end of life after using that product.
Sanitation tax.
I don't know the name to call it.
But we've had sanitation tax.
It didn't work. Because
we paid. So where did the money go?
So we had it for, I think it was excise tax on virgin imported plastics. That money went into consolidated fund without any clear-cut legislative instrument to provide directions out to the disbursement.
So essentially what you're saying is we use the money for something else.
So currently, as we speak, we should explore the EPR scheme that Mr. Joe talked about.
Okay.
This thing I'm talking, if you go to Japan, right from day one, when they manufacture any automobile product, any car, they have what we call LV, end-of-life vehicle. From day one, a company is hired to take care of the end of life of that vehicle. But what happens? That company takes the money, all right, dismantles the car, maybe after 5 years or so, and then we go for the individual parts without getting a dime of that money that that company has taken, only to come and clog our landfills with these engine parts. Because no matter what you do, that vehicle's parts that you've imported will come to its end of life.
You've raised some critical issues. And Dr. Odefe, because you are working for an office, executive secretary of an office under the office of the president, the matter of policy, which Mr. Nuete raised consistently in what he has indicated, falls directly on your lap. Where is the disconnect? And why is that disconnect really existing over time? Because it talks about segregation of waste. There's been a government policy for segregation which didn't work. So what's going on?
Thank you, Alfred, and good morning to fellow participants. So from the policy level, I heard earlier my brother Joe Jackson talked about what's government doing. So government's responsibility is policy and the regulatory framework. And then we have us, and then the various institutions, that should then take charge of implementation or practicalizing. So in terms of policy, the Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs has responsibility for the National Sanitation Policy. And sometime in June this year, that policy was reviewed. But I see that conspicuously, you don't have them invited to this program. So that, when I was looking around and hearing you mention the dignitaries, I was wondering to myself, why is it that, the sector ministry that's really responsible for what we're talking about, they're not here?
Well,
they were invited. Okay. In fact, I reached out to the director responsible, and he's like, we haven't heard of it, but that's beyond the point. So government, through the national policy on environmental sanitation, has highlighted the things that the engineer is talking about. However, there's a layer that has the direct responsibility in terms of where you and I live, because policy is implemented within space, every policy. And every single one of us lives within a local government area. So Joe talked about living in TMA. I live in Lanconte, Medina. Now, we call it the Local Governance Act, Act 936, specifies in there who has responsibility for issues of sanitation and the environment. It's them, the local governments, that have to do that. So, number one, government can set in place the policy framework, but there is the responsibility of the local government in conjunction with the people that live within that particular local government area to be able to take these things forward. And so the question comes back to the engineer. For instance, he's the engineer at the AMA level. What's the local government doing? What is the AMA doing as far as, because the policy framework is in place, right? And they're meant to take that forward. Now, the other thing that we need to deal with...
He just told you why they can't do what you're asking of them. He said they need money.
I'm coming to that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the point is, it's not only about money, but it's also about mindset. The issues of mindset, we as a people, we have to conceptualize and see waste as money. So once we don't do that, then we have a challenge.
How do we do that? How do we change that mindset?
So number one, we have institutions that are responsible for working on, civic education. Then also, when it comes to the curriculum, we need to be able to, from the very get-go, from kindergarten, we need to already mainstream that into the minds of our people. The young people growing up already would have to know that when it comes to issues of waste, right, we have a personal responsibility, but then also how we conceptualize and how we view the issues of waste. So number one, that if we produce the waste, shouldn't we already be sorting it out in the first instance? That how, when kids eat candy and what have you, what do they do with it, right? So at that level, at the local government level, the local authority really has a very big responsibility in conjunction with the local people, the people who live within there. But I find that there's a disconnect between the people and then the local governments. And that's where we have to start from. That if you live in the AME area, or you live in Lankontana, Medina, or you live in the Tema metropolitan area, number one, you should be reaching out to your mayor, because there's what we call the medium-term development plan that has to be put together at that level, that highlights the priorities at that level.
But you see, it's good that you reference a plan on paper.
Yes.
Practicality and the reality of the ground is different.
Yes.
We know that. So that, you're talking about me going to my mayor. Remember the last time I saw, not even the mayor, the assemblyman should be my first port of call, is it not?
Absolutely. That's why I talk about a disconnect.
Absolutely.
Right.
And
The disconnect,
that's why, you see, the plan on paper looks good. And I've seen quite a number of them at the AMA office, TMA office. You go there, the first thing you see is there, big one. But on the ground, it's not working. And I'll come to you. I think it's important that we bring in the Climate Innovation Center on this one, because beyond what policy says, there's a practical aspect of things and the challenges on the ground, which you are using other means in the private sector to address. In terms of the mindset change, what are you doing differently that can be upscaled at the governmental level to see waste as a resource, as we're championing now?
Thank you, Albert, and thanks for the opportunity. Uncle Joe Jackson practically nailed it.
Yes.
After his presentation, my question was, must we continue this discussion? He nailed it. We at Ghana Climate Innovation Center sees waste as value. And we believe that value is driven by the private sector, primarily the youth businesses that have seen the need to develop the waste value chain. We think waste is a value chain that needs to be developed better. You take plastics, for instance. Ghana generates over 1 billion tons of plastics annually. And there's a global market for plastics needed for recycling that is worth over $36 billion. In 2024, a couple of youth businesses made as much as $58 million, either pelletizing, flaking, crushing, or baling plastics for export, and also for sale for local plastic manufacturing entities. If you do the mathematics, it's just about 9% of the total plastics which we generate here in Ghana. And that's just plastics, not the total waste. We could consider methane gas production through biodegradable waste. We could consider organic fertilizer production, which some youth are doing. That would support the sequestration of carbon, which we could monetize. I believe the question about, or the discussion about carbon finance is becoming quite rife. Why can't we harness the carbon sequestered in doing the right thing on the waste value chain to finance the waste management challenges? For me, it's a simple solution to unlock that gold mine out of that waste value chain, among other solutions that we can consider. For us, we drive this through entrepreneurship development and providing a full bouquet of services to support small and medium enterprises doing the right thing around waste and other green solutions. Provide them tailor-made consulting services to help them improve their businesses, as well as open up new markets so they can, with the little they are doing, unlock a lot of financing and unlock employment. Now you look at the waste value chain. You are talking about aggregators, those that do the collection. It's a major source of employment for the informal sector. There are the sorters. Engineer mentioned that when you put waste together, they need to be sorted. Unfortunately, we do not have the culture of segregating waste in Ghana. Yeah. So if you must do well with recycling, we will have to sort. That is a line of business. Now, there is a crushing and the flaking, which is also a line of business. And that feeds into the recycling industry. There's also the baling for export, which is a huge gold mine. If you come to look at the values of revenue such small businesses are making. These are the lines of businesses that we support at Ghana Climate Innovation Center to encourage the youth and the unemployed to see the opportunity for tapping into the gold mine Uncle Jackson mentioned.
So even though we don't have that culture of segregation, that has also, that problem or the challenge has created an opportunity, right? That's creating jobs for people who are just responsible for sorting the waste out. But over time, we've seen government intervention in that regard to try and develop that culture of segregation. It didn't work. What did government do wrong in that approach in trying to develop the culture of segregation amongst the general public? Because what we did was just provide bins, you mark them with color codes, and then we did some small campaign on TV, and that was it.
Growing up, we had a hole in our backyard where we buried biodegradable waste. And we had 2 bins at home for glass and for plastics. And I think a small one for metals and all that. It was a culture that was embedded in the family values. Now, I believe change is difficult, but it takes time. Whatever intervention that was made to drive the need for segregation, I think it's a continuous intervention that needs to be done consistently and over time to support the change mindset. It is when we are successful to making people relate to that culture of segregation that will be successful in getting that agenda through, making people understand the need to segregate waste. And if that is done, it is easier to unlock a lot of money out of waste. Then you don't need the cleaning and the washing and all those things.
I'll come to you on the industry of waste export, because that's another area. Engineer, I want to do this very quickly.
Yes, to add to what he said, what government must do first is to implement the infrastructure that will handle the source segregated waste first. This is what will trickle down to help in the education sensitization, because in the past, the infrastructure was not there.
Yes.
You saw separate anyway. Then one truck will come early in the morning and put
it all
everything together into one truck. Because that truck doesn't know where else to take the source segregated waste. So let's start from implementing the infrastructure, such as the anaerobic digestion plants for biogas generation to handle the organics. Then we can have other types of infrastructure that will take care of the source segregated waste. Then the education will sink down.
So I don't know if when government puts together some of these policies, you do the consultation down to the ground. Because if AMA is having this idea, and then now you implement a policy where it's like it's zero results. You're putting a policy where there's no infrastructure to carry it out. So then individuals are catching up that whole fever of segregation. We segregate the waste. The company that is coming to pick it up, they are not educated about it. They put it all back again. Back to square one. And let's go to Bus Stop Boys, because they are living what we are talking about now in terms of letting us all get involved in this process of waste management. Now, you are on the ground. Tell us exactly how that problem that we're talking about now is, where we're having people indiscriminately dispose waste, but then you've taken up the challenge to lead the campaign to clean up our cities.
Thank you, and good morning to everybody. Yes, first of all, let me also say that life in itself, before I even answer the question, life in itself is about recycling. That is why we breathe out carbon dioxide and take in oxygen, which has been recycled, the same air being recycled back to us. So the missing link for me, or for us as Bus Stop Boys, is the fact that decisions that are being made do not involve young people. And sustainability will not make, excuse my French, any positive impact if we do not deliberately involve young people in sustainability. Because like you are saying, for change to happen, it must be well understood by young people. And for us to also get there, we need to start from the basics. We believe that the problem of waste or waste segregation in itself must start from the roots, and the root is targeting young minds. In 20 years, a lot of us will be much older or might not even have the physical capacity to be here. But there are a lot of young people out there who step in our shoes when we are old. So if we can deliberately install a certain mindset about waste consciousness in their minds, then the issue of segregation becomes much easier. That way we can send trucks to go in our communities purposely to collect plastics. Then you can also send same trucks to go in for organic waste. And of course, like when the systems are in place, the organic waste vehicles bring the organic waste and go straight into manufacturing or production of organic compost. So why for me, for us as Bus Stop Boys, the disconnect is the fact that the citizens, which are largely the producers of the waste, do not see their role in all the waste management business. And if we can have a way of deliberately using social media to also drive the mindset change, because there are a lot of people doing things on social media, not because they really love it or they want it, but because it's a trend. So if you can make waste, lives also a trend, then we can deliberately have young people championing sustainability. And that way, even if the system fails, the community people themselves will walk the talk and we'll have results.
Wonderful. Let's put our hands together for that. But beyond what we see, the videos you see on social media, how have the youth also responded to that call that you're making? But before you answer that, let me acknowledge the presence of Prince Kwame Apata. He's a co-founder and CEO of Koliba Ghana. Let's put our hands together for Prince. Prince, you can kindly join Engineer on this seat. You can move. Thank you very much. We have representatives from the 24-hour Economy Secretariat as well. Let's put our hands together for them as you give us a wave. Do we have them here? Dr. Ishmael? Yes, perfect. Please, you would also have a quick word as we go on. Thank you very much. And has been not just the acknowledgement and then the likes of what you put on social media, has that clarion call that you're making through this initiative caught up in terms of the response by young people and the involvement? of young people in this campaign?
I say a big yes, because as we speak, we have about 15 and counting young people doing same environmental cleanup exercises. And they are not just cleaning, they are sorting the plastics and all kinds of waste. I can talk about Keep Kumasi Clean, they are in Kumasi. I can talk about Uptown Cleaners, they are in Ashaiman. Chia Youth, they are in Chia. There are a lot of young people doing same environmental campaigns, and we believe that once they understood or understands the concept of cleaning their space, nobody can be a bigger change than all of us, than them, the youth. So as part of empowering them, where there are community-based recycling centers, recycling sounds big, but recycling can start small. All we need is shredding machines that will easily shred all kinds of plastics in smaller particles. Then we can either export it or sell to companies who are already doing or manufacturing plastic chairs and all sort of plastic, so they can just use it. So if we have a community mini recycling center where there's only a shredding machine to shred all kinds of plastics, I believe that people like us who are sorting plastics on a daily will have a direct place to send our plastic waste and maybe get a little token to be able to carry on our journey. So far, I say it's a very good thing, and the young people are getting involved.
Perfect. And you started this on a small scale. I mean, just give us an idea of how all of this started. Before you got to this point of we seeing contributions and donations to you with some mini tricycles and so on. How did you start this?
Okay, it all started from a mindset. I was born in the 90s, and I've seen a couple of generations up to today. And from my honest observation, I can say that the more we grow as a country, the more we leave some good practices behind us in the name of modernization. And I think that is wrong, because as far back I know, places like 37, you hardly find litter back in the days. But today, all these places are now littered, which is why we need to be deliberate about social media to be able to give a picture of what it looks like in the past to the Gen Zs who seems to be left to find their fate of morals or everything. Because today, there is nothing like by the fireside teaching us morals. There is nothing like Pimpana and all the good things that we do in the past where elderly people inculcate a certain sort of morals in us. They are no longer available. So from that mindset of understanding where we are going and the fact that if young people don't step in to also contribute their quota, our future is staring at us and smiling to hurt us back. So we started from the seaside. Everybody talk about debris at the sea. From our observations, the debris don't get to the sea because of the people who are going to beaches or to enjoy beach life. But it goes there because of the indiscriminate behavior we put up in the communities, where people pour their trash in running waters and nothing happens to them. I say nothing happens to them because according to the Public Health Act 851, Section 56, says on authority that prohibits any act that causes insanitary conditions such as littering public places or dumping refuse. And the fine attached to this is that punishment or imprisonment or both, depending on the severity of the offense. So these implementations are not seen on our streets. So we as Bus Stop Boys are saying that if we can go back to the community to begin environmental campaigns that is not just talking, but it's also cleaning, depicting possibilities and urging people in their communities to see waste not just as something that is bad, but to see waste just as the oxygen that kept being recycled to us on a daily for our survival. So that's basically how we started, purposely and deliberately, to leverage on social media to drive a mindset change that we believe that once we have a responsible community, it can rain for hours and the sea will clean or far from debris.
Wonderful. Let's put our hands together. It started with a mindset change. The very important point he makes that we're living behind practices that we cherished, all in the name of modernization. And one that we should be thinking about going forward. And because Prince is also within the same youthful age bracket, I still want to stay on that tangent of the involvement of young people in this drive for efficient management of our sanitation. Prince, what has Calabar been doing? Quick one.
Thank you so much. So Calabar we've been around since after the 3rd June flood disaster. So if you realize, 3rd June there was a massive flood in Seko, and prior to that, I did lose a friend on that disaster. Most of us, some people did lose people. And the reason was because, as you rightly said, the Odona River was choked with plastics. So that was a huge impact from indiscriminate disposal of waste. So until we have a mindset change, and we still have people, it's raining, they feel like it's cheaper to just dump their waste into running water, and it still happens in most communities today. And that is what passes through the water channels and ends in Eldona, and then comes to our estuaries into the sea, and then it comes back. And so we keep saying, as Cody will agree, beach cleaner has not been sustainable. A lot of things that we've been doing has not been sustainable. And that's what Koliba started. We started by doing cleanup. We remember we cleaned our donor. Basically started by just a cleanup, activity. Then we said, okay, cleanup is not enough. We need to do more. And so Koliba then started finding buyers for the PET bottles, which is your normal drinking bottles. Because usually you will find women going around picking your sachet waters. They've been there for so long. People go around picking sachets. So recycling has been there. There are well environmental heroes who are already doing that. So we came in, they were cherry picking, but they were not picking the bottles, the actual bottles. This was in 2015. And we remember the first people that set up buyback center, Cody, and in 360, they set up buyback centers. We decided to also run the same model. And then with time, we started exporting PET, just as you rightly said. But again, there was a problem with our model of export. We realized that even for recycling, export had not been, the real solution for us is to keep the thing, waste should be circular economy. How do we pick the waste from the waste stream? How do we recycle them into product that is useful to indigents here in Ghana and can stay in a way that when I take a bowl and crush it and pelletize it and turn it back into bowls and buckets, I can sell it locally and know how to. So that is the state that Koliba currently is, in that circular economy stage.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. And it's important that you make the point about also the export module, which I'll come to you on. But then again, Oniba, you mentioned some of the interventions that we put in place. Mr. Jackson, I'm going to come to you on this. And by the mention of By the Fireside, the woman who initiated this, the late Nana Kunedo Ajiman Rollins, is one that we need to acknowledge that contribution as well. Let's put our hands together for her in the memory of that intervention that also helped in churning out information, especially to the children. Because we're talking about growing a generation of people who would acknowledge and appreciate what we're talking about. Mr. Johnson, there are some low-hanging fruits, is it not? Because already there's some proposals here that do not need money per se. What should be the thinking going forward from here? Because it's all about solutions after understanding the problem.
Well, first of all, even though they're low-hanging fruits, they're not that widely known. Someone has to take the responsibility of publicizing the success stories. We're talking about Cobra, we're talking about reusable bags, we're talking about
Bus
Stop Boys, we're talking about the turning sachet plastics into reusable bags. And there's a wide range of them. First of all, it must be made public. The second thing is this. We talk about mindset change. But the quickest way to get a mindset change is to let it affect your pocket.
You affect your pocket.
When it affects your pocket, your mind changes quickly. It doesn't need too much talk. And it's easy to say, oh, people won't separate. We don't have the mindset of separating our waste. Is there a cost to not separating your waste? Is there a cost to using plastic bags? Is there a cost to using all the different plastics that we can't recycle? And for me, the first thing is, let's start making it slightly more expensive not to behave in the right way. Once it hits my pocket, I assure you, the mindset change will come quickly. And we've seen societies where a few pesos added to the cost of a plastic bag, paid for at the retail point, has changed mindsets towards plastics. Why not? If it's not recyclable, it should be more expensive. If you don't separate, you should be penalized. And so, if you're coming to collect rubbish or from my house, and I have separated well, I should get a benefit.
Yeah, there should be some monetary value.
That's the only
incentive to it.
And as much as we can appeal to the good consciences and the good people and everything, this will only change if it hits the pocket. Forgive me, I'm from the financial sector. The people change behavior very quickly when it hits their pocket. And that's the only way. And for me, the lowest hanging fruit is let's get some of these tried and tested mechanisms out there and working.
Let's say it's tried and tested. In other jurisdictions, let's not look too far away. I mean, Rwanda, as you referenced, if you segregate your waste at home, you get paid for it. You get some money when the waste companies come and take the waste. But the challenge is that's what the engineer talked about. The homes will do that. And when these waste companies are coming to take the waste, they put it all together. So how do we address that one as well?
But you see, the other thing is this, and I hear government must build. Government must build. One of the different ways we have to look at it is that the private sector must build, not government. The truth of the matter is that government doesn't have the money. As we said, this government does not have the money. And if we are waiting for government to build, if we're waiting...
Well, you see, there are different sides to it. If you say government doesn't have the money, at some point government collected money to address this problem.
Forgive me, that's in the past.
That money was collected and never used.
Let's talk about what is happening today. I'm saying government shouldn't even collect the money anymore. Government shouldn't collect the money. The money should be collected at retail points. When I buy plastic bags to use for my business, it should cost me slightly more. But I've been given the avenue to reclaim the money when you come and buy. Listen, you go to shops, right, and they bag 2-3 items, one different bag. 2-3 items, one different bag. There should be a cost to it, so that I will be telling the person that I want to use the reusable bag from Bismarck.
Bismarck, yes.
Yes, I want to use the reusable bag from Bismarck. That's where the mindset will change. Listen, anytime you bring government, do apologies. Every time you bring government into this business, things start to go awry. Let's let this revolution be private sector led. Let the collection, let the penalties go into private sector. Let the revenues go into. All we require of the government is to give us a fair playing ground. Give us a fair policies. Clearly define what it is we can do and what is it we cannot do. But to expect that the government is going to build that sorting facility, why can't I build a sorting facility and make money from it?
I see. Engineer, you had that suggestion, so
yes.
Respond. 1 minute.
Yes, so here is where I beg to differ from Uncle Joe. The issue is this. We are talking about finance. There are 3 sides to the coin when it comes to sanitation management. 1, the business aspect of it. 2, the public health, the aesthetics, environmental conditions. And 3, the public good aspect of managing sanitation. And it comes with a cost. That 3rd one, the public good, government must take up that cost. And I'm saying that if you take the capital expenditure in getting this infrastructure to process the source-separated waste, if the private sector does it, that capital expenditure will be slapped on the service. Okay. And that will in turn be passed on to the client, we the users. And that will make it very expensive. And so the direction in which I was going is, yes, government should lay the enabling condition, but whose responsibility is it to make sure that people's pockets are affected by not behaving well.
But with the previous experience we've had of government collecting the money instead of the private sector, we saw where the money went. So why don't
No. So that's why there is a sanitation policy.
Yeah.
So in that sanitation policy, I expect a fund, a sanitation management fund of a sort that is ring-fenced, that the legislature, what we call the MPs, should make tight laws so that there is no way anybody can misapply that funding. And that is where we will now bring in the private sector to come into the operationalization and then the setting up of these pieces. Otherwise, the private man is not Father Christmas. They are in to recoup their investment, shortest by 10 years' time.
Alfred.
Yes. Dr. Gamali.
Thank you very much. I sought to try earlier to highlight these things. So government has a responsibility by way of setting in place the policy and the regulatory framework. We've talked about polluter pay and what have you. They're all in the policy. However, that policy has to be implemented. And I'm saying that this conversation really needs to be had at a certain level. Now, we have the local government and the technical people that work within the local governments.
Yes.
The engineer here is a technical person within a local government area. Government is empowered the engineer through policy and through the law to be able to go into PPP arrangements with the private sector to be able to put in place the facilities that he's talking about.
I see.
Right? Government has created that. Also, government has empowered the engineer through the law and policy to be able to, you remember we used to have what we call Sama. The Sama, everyone was they were quite feared that maybe on a Tuesday or on a Friday they will come around. They were waste and health inspectors. That responsibility is also at the local level. Government has empowered the local governments to be able to do that. So they need to be able to go out there, check what's happening within the communities. They're there. The environmental health sanitation officials at the local level. So government has empowered them. So the technical people are available at that level. And then we're talking about money, right? In the same way, the resources that government is to pay the people at the local level. Because the responsibility is not the government not pay their staff. It's the government that pays them. But they are there to do a job. And what's that job? Their job is to ensure that in tandem with the local people, there are certain priorities at that level. They are galvanizing the people. They are working on issues of mindset change. Now, how do you change mindsets? Now, if the local government puts in place a bylaw, that says that henceforth, when it comes to collection or segregation of waste, when we come round, we should put the plastics one, the organics in the other. It is the local government. You don't wait for central government from the center to come all the way to where you live to come and do that for you. So it's quite important that we clarify these things. So they are clarified in policy and in the law.
Okay.
Right? But they have to drive this.
It's important that you put out this clarity as well. But I'm wondering, Mr. Jackson, if there's policy, as you indicated, the policy has to be implemented.
Yes.
As to why it's not being implemented, it's between you and the engineer to answer that question. Because honestly, you've elucidated it quite clearly. You seem to know what has to be done, who has to do what, but who has to do what is not doing what has to be done. And there's no punitive measure for it. We're just there, and things are going wrong. And there's something on paper, you say it's policy, that has to address the problem. A policy cannot implement itself.
Yes,
people are appointed to implement or execute policies. We are paying them to do so, and they are not doing so. Mr. Jackson.
You see, one of the objectives of this discussion should be that the private sector starts to see how much money and profit and wealth can be made from waste, such that we start to deliver services that for now engineer wants to deliver as part of public good. It should open our eyes that this is, and that's why I call it the missed trillion cedi opportunity. That it is possible to do some of the things that now engineers calling public good. As private sector, make profit and still share the cost enough that we all benefit if we behave in the right way. And make money from the waste. Because you see, so long as we continue to consume, whatever we consume one day will get to end of life. And there will be waste produced. You have to pay for disposing of that waste. You have to pay for, and something that always, he talked about batteries. You have to pay for the disposal of your old car battery. We don't bother. We just dump them. And they leach all sorts of material into the ground. You have to dispose of even your dry cell batteries in a proper way. Your phone batteries. And we could go on and on and on. But there's no free lunch. Somebody has to pay and somebody has to make a profit. And if you all understand that this is an opportunity that is there for us, then we can start to provide some of the services, facilities, and infrastructure. If a railroad can be built as a private-public partnership, I see no reason why infrastructure for waste, which delivers far shorter return on investment, brings profit in a far shorter cycle, cannot be built by private sector.
Thank you very much for this. Let me also acknowledge the presence of Dr. Ishmael Ni Amanododu, the Director, Head of Innovative Finance at the 24-Hour Economy Secretariat. Is going to be joining us in a bit. Understand he stepped out, but Mr. Jackson will have to leave us, I was just told, because you have to attend to another program. So, Mr. Jackson, you're excused, albeit a sad one. But he would have, let's put that together for Mr. Joe Jackson as he took leave of us. Thank you very much. And while we do that, please, we'll hear from the traditional authorities as well. They have a role to play, what they are doing to contribute to this conversation of effective management of waste. Ni Ako Danso, the first would share with us the thoughts at the local level, what exactly the traditional authorities are doing to contribute to the effective or efficient management of our waste. Ni, in a minute or two, please.
Good morning. Good morning. Yes, I represent the Extraction Action Alliance of Ghana, and we made an observation, and we realized that most of our waste from our drainage systems enters into the ocean, and at the end of the day, the ocean have to reverse it. We are not able to collect everything. We have heavy debris which are dropped under the ocean. At the end of the day, they pollute the sea. Based on these observations, we decided that we need to do a research. And we conducted the research, and we realized that there is a law which states clearly that every country, it is your duty to stop waste from entering into the ocean. Now the question is, how does the waste enters into the ocean? The waste enters into the ocean through the lagoons. Now, how do we stop this waste from entering into the ocean? We did further research, and we happened to come across an organization based in the United Kingdom. And the strategy that they use is that they mount barriers, what we call the waste barriers. We have the permanent meshing system, and then they have the movable meshing system. So this system catch the waste which is supposed to go into the ocean. We have been to the coastal areas, and in our surveillance, we realize that it is very terrible when you go to the seaside. So we, as TIA Ghana, we have come to stop this waste which enters into the ocean by applying this, our strategy. As a matter of fact, we are in the process of doing this project, but it looks like we are having some backlogs.
See.
Yeah, and I'm sure if we are able to address these issues, it will help
be able
to stop the waste which enters into the ocean. When we collect them, we can do the recycling, we can do our sorting, and then at least in one way or the other, we're also helping to stop waste from entering into our oceans.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Annie, for this. We'll come to the audience. I know a few of you have questions. I'll have the ushers help me with the microphone or two. You lift your hand, you introduce yourself, and kindly go straight to the point with the questions for any of the panel members while you gather your thoughts. For the Climate Innovation Center, I was coming to you about just to understand the waste export industry. How big is this, and what opportunity are we missing in that regard?
Thank you. Waste export is a huge opportunity. It's a huge source of finance that could be tapped into, or if you like, a huge source of revenue. In our work, we would rather like to focus on building capacity for circular economy. Koleba is an alumni of our program, and so is reusable bags. These are examples of what the youth can do if they have that focused mindset and the will to make a difference. Koleba had been successful transcending collecting waste into recycling, into useful ventures. That is a perfect example of that circular economy end that is ideal. However, there is a huge market locally as well as on the export market for plastic waste. The local market is about 1 billion. And if I'm not exaggerating, local manufacturers do more than 70% of their plastic waste through imports. And they subsidize what they need with just about 30% of what they get locally. They could do more. Now, out there in the export market is a host of different needs. To begin with, there is that need for plastic waste for recycling, so that institutions out there could contribute to their nationally determined contributions when it comes to the issues about climate change. And they do that by considering the waste as green. So they are greening their supply chain of raw materials, which is the waste our SMEs either pelletize or put into flakes or bale and export. That essentially goes to them at lower rates than they would have accessed virgin plastics for production. But that becomes a good source of revenue for SMEs that see the business case in collecting waste for export. At this moment, what Ghana is able to do is just about 9% of the total export requirement for waste. Right. And there's a huge opportunity if youth enterprises could consider opportunity in this direction. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. There's a question. Yes. Where's the microphone? Oh, there's one. Yes, please. You can go ahead. Yes.
Thank you. I suppose I better introduce myself first. My name is Clive Cox. I am a small business owner in Takoradi. I'm also a Ghanaian, even though the name doesn't say that. Born in Tema, Community 1. So right. I tend to refer myself as a Kubolo sometimes. I represent a consortium company that is looking to bring solutions to managing our waste on a large scale. We are in advanced discussions with the government at the moment. I am here through the invite of Dr. Ishmael Dodu, who we engaged at the 24-hour team. Our solution, we are an infrastructure and renewable energy solutions company where we want to turn domestic and commercial waste to electricity. We plan on building a facility or a plant here in Accra, which will take literally a pilot project that will take about half of all the waste that we produced in Greater Accra. Individually, we are all producing close to about a kilogram of waste every day, even though we don't know it. Accra, according to my research and data, produces 2,200 tons of waste every day. What we propose to do, building this plant, will allow for a centralized location where waste can be delivered. This complements what all the panelists have been talking about. We will give a facility where we can segregate plastics, HDPE, for reconstitution, export, whatever the case might be. We could even support the Bus Stop Boys in what they're doing in educating, sensitizing the youth, those that are coming up on how to manage waste. We see waste as valuable. We see every piece of waste that's thrown away as can be brought into our facility and turned into electricity. As to what the engineer said as well, which is correct, but there is a little point I want to make there about bio-waste, which obviously, if you leave bio-waste around like banana peels, they will degrade and turn into slush. However, in the facility we propose, we have a drying kiln within that facility itself. So we are able, with the exception of any materials that might have some radioactive components, like batteries, as was discussed, we're able to segregate, as I said, metals, plastics, woods that can be turned into other things, but all the other remaining waste will be then burnt through high temperature pyrolysis, which is our technology, which we created through research and development. And just one more point. This facility has been done in Egypt through a company who we partnered with called Renergy. It's operating, it's producing 30 megawatts of power every day for the past 18 months. We've just recently also signed an agreement, an MOU with Ethiopia. But as a Ghanaian, I want to bring this here. So this is where I am at the moment.
And that's why I bring in Dr. Manodot. How does all of this tie into this 24-hour economy to, as it were, leverage the waste that we produce? That is, if you have a component in there for this.
Thank you very much. And first of all, I want to say good morning to everyone. It's a pleasure to join this thought leadership debate. I had told your colleagues that I actually wanted to listen more at the implementation stage of the 24-hour economy program, and where we are aggressively accelerating implementation. Thought leadership discussions are very important to really co-create the strategy. So this question is very, very key. I'd like to preface answering this question by getting us to really prick our thoughts about the Ghana economy that we are talking about. So we have a GDP of $80 billion. Our food import bill, give or take, could be between 5 to 10 billion. Let's say it's 10 billion conservative, please. Don't quote me on this. I'm just making some analysis. So the 70 billion, if you look at our import, nearly 30% of our import are in trade and repairs. This relates to essentially dump goods, including, old electronic items and so on, that huge import of plastics into the country. So we're talking a bill of 24 to 30 billion dollars, which would translate into 30 trillion Ghana cedis, which we are importing. And somebody is actually making the money out of that. Somebody is creating the jobs out of that, which is why as our GDP has ballooned from 10.6 billion to 80 billion, our job ratio has really reduced from $100 to 70 jobs to $100 addition to the GDP to less than 10 jobs. So the thinking in the 24-hour economy is really to look at of all our production regimes and ensure that we revolutionize it by systematically and aggressively at the same time transforming our production. And in doing so, we have to take into consideration things that can be very useful in the circular economy. If we are promoting big industrial setups where our fridges are manufactured here, our air conditions are to be manufactured here, we're going to assemble electric vehicles, we're going to do massive manufacturing of our goods and services, packaging for export and so on, then we are creating an economy where if we don't use the circular economy approach, then it's going to be a disaster. And this is why this conversation is very important to us. And I will end by saying that within the 24-hour economy approach, where we are accelerating industrialization, there's enormous opportunity to create value by way of investment, entrepreneurs who would take advantage of this, to be able to occupy another stream of opportunities in economy, which is in the waste sector. Right. So framing the waste as an important resource in our urban economy and through the 24-hour economy process is something that is very important for us.
Framing that waste conversation. In fact, that's why we put together this all-important conversation this morning, to bring all these minds together, complement that effort, both the public and private sector collaboration in changing the mindset and what has to be done in the first place to help in changing that mindset of seeing waste as a resource and not rubbish. There was a question on this side. There's another question over there. Let me just indicate that shortly we will be crossing over to the Bank of Ghana, but the conversation continues here. So stay with us, but we're live on TV3 and on 3FM 92.7. Yes, please.
Yes, good morning to everyone. My name is Nunana Agboma BSA. I'm here representing the Director of Environment from the Ministry of Environment, Science and Tech.
Please make that contribution or question short for me. Thank you.
Thank you. So to tackle the financing, as a ministry, we've started some work on an extended producer responsibility that is looking at the producer pays system. We think when we say the producer pays, what you are trying to talk about is whoever is producing it. But in effect, it's all of us who are going to pay for it. That's going to come. Yes, and so we are mainly looking at plastics, but then we are looking at also a multi that is supposed to tackle all other sources of waste, which we see as products. And so we are going to be seeing all these products as waste. I think we spoke about plastics, automobile.
Indeed. So because of time, thank you. But you know what? We're going to be talking some more after this because we need to engage. Thank you. Thank you very much. There was a question here. There's a lady, and then there's a gentleman at the back, and then there's... Yes, please.
Very much. My name is Engineer Jifa Agbefu. I work with the International Water Management Institute. where I run innovation on circular economy. I'm also here representing the Ghana Institution of Engineering, Water and Sanitation subgroup. My question is to the government sector. I tend to agree with Engineer Noi on the government's role. You know, we all have a role to play when it comes to waste management. At the local government level, they play a role. Also, at the national level, there is also a role to be played. You know, I have seen a lot of projects that has been implemented where the local level, the assemblies have done PPPs, they've implemented and all of that. But what the national government carries is the conversation of scale, you know. When there is a project and at the national level there is a buy-in, let's say there is something on composting, and national level, ministry buys in, they carry scale. Scale carries money, it carries economy, sustainability. At the local government level, they can't do that. They will buy in, they will market it to their farmers and all. And it stays like that. So there is really a role to be played. For example, a lot of private entities do not invest in some of these initiatives because they say it's not bankable, it's not profitable. They're not going to put their money in there. And Engineer Noi said there is a public good. If you do composting, you take waste out of the environment, there's ecosystem services, you know. What is the government doing to drive scale? The assemblies are doing really well. I have been in a project where assembly has bought the land, they've bought electricity, and the project is suffering because there is no scale, you know. So what is the government doing to drive scale? Intentional efforts. What does the Circular Economy Secretariat have for us in this regard? And my final point is on the source segregation thing. Let us not underestimate the effect source segregation will have on making some of these businesses sustainable. If you take waste, which is mixed, the business will invest in cleaning, sorting. It is money, you know. Awareness creation also lies with the government. You have the numbers to drive the scale. People don't understand source segregation. I run a schools program. The kids don't understand. We've taught them. And they say, we need gloves to do segregation. I'm like, why do you need gloves? You're separating your own waste. Then you realize they don't understand what it is. You have to do role play. It's a big issue. So let's not underestimate the role you have to play. So I want to know what you are doing for us.
Perfect point. Thank you. Yes, let's put our hands together. Wonderful. You have to.
Yes, okay. Thank you very much, Engineer. Yes, I wouldn't say that it's only government's role, but I would say it's a joint responsibility. And that's why, for me, I tend to focus on what has the government done in terms of creating the enabling environment, because that's really government's responsibility. Create the enablers. Because we all know that once we conceptualize waste as something that is money, then straight away everything else changes. So that if the local government, for instance, enters a PPP arrangement, right, with Colliver, for instance, and then they set up a segregation plant at the local level, there are incentives today available through policy and through the 24-hour economy secretariat to be able to ensure that when it comes to either taxes or the use of energy, rebates and what have you, those are in place. That's what government can do. However, when it comes to whether the project is bankable or not, that is the private sector to deal with the local government. And I believe that when it comes to waste, everything about waste is. I was in South Korea with the engineer, and he would testify that from where waste is produced in our homes or in the homes of the people to the end of it where the waste is processed into something else, that whole circular process, they do it perfectly in South Korea. And that is why we went there, right? To see what is happening in that jurisdiction.
So when you came back, what have you done?
And so remember I talked about policy, because from where I sit, that's what I have to be able to do. So government needs to put in place the policy, and then to enable, right, the implementers, who are the local governments, because that's where the people live. That is the thing that is also a mindset change, Alfred, that we need to get. Somehow in Ghana, we are very reliant on government. right? So everything they will say government, even though it's a local thing, they will say government. They will say the MP. No, it's not the MP. It's the district chief executive. It's the engineer at the local level, right? That is their responsibility.
Well,
but government has,
you carry part of the blame for creating your own problems.
Yeah, I know.
It depends on what you tell the people. Because there are some things government can create the enabling environment for.
Yes.
Others, you have to take the lead.
So she was talking about scale.
For instance, that's great about helping Madam, for instance, who is teaching children how to sort waste. You don't have to create the enabling environment for her. You need to take the lead. So that if you're resourcing NCC, for instance, and other collaborators like this, to take that charge of educating children on the need to sort waste, that is a responsibility you have to take.
Yes, it's policy.
Madam will only come in to support. You don't have to create an enabling environment for that. It's your sole responsibility to do.
I think.
Please take up that one.
Can I help?
Right?
Yes.
Can I help my brother
in a minute? So I have to go and take the last two questions.
Yes. Since we are, so our sister raised the point about scalability. Now, where we have seen countries actually lift up, they have done so through a revolutionized relationship between private sector and government. You don't see government actually made this in a way that. Only exception you see China, but China is zero government, private sector actually leading charge in many things. The notion view of scalability actually refers to the private sector taking advantage of a demonstrable opportunity and being able to move in. And the idea is to work with the private sector to the extent that to create scalability, they develop a bankable project, which he's talking about. And I think the problem we have in this is, number one, where is the funds going to come from? Even when you go to the bank, you're going to pay 35% interest rate, short-term tenor of loans. This doesn't work. So, and scalability would necessarily happen through entrepreneurs such as Backstop Boys and others that Caliber Boys we heard about. So we have to try and solve that problem. And in solving that problem, we'll have to create a fund that will enable them to provide patient capital, bring the capacity, and give them whatever it takes for us to scale up. And that's why in the 24 economy, we have set up the SME facility, which is going to provide this type of funds for you to do it. Okay. And so it is really not just the government. We need to stimulate the private sector to take up some of those demonstrable projects and run with it. And that's how we're going to make it happen. After all, we are importing $30 billion of waste into this country every year, which is creating jobs for somebody else. How about we really focus on circular economy, replacing all the $30 billion of that opportunity here, so we can provide a recyclable.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Christian Tete, and as part of environmental awareness, it is important that we inculcate the awareness at our basic school level, because at the end of the day, we can do all the discussions, quote figures, and so on, but if we don't tackle the issue from the foundation or the bottom, we will still have these challenges the next 20 years to come. So we might have a change of mind of character, implement policies that will catch up with the children from the scratch so that they grow up to be more aware and more conscious about these issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And maybe, Backstop Boys, beyond what you're doing on the streets as well, any plan to also leverage your influence now to get kids or children get that habit of responsible disposal of waste, sorting, and so on?
Okay, thank you. So, like I said earlier, the end goal to everything environmental sustainability is an issue of mindset. If we can drive a mindset that makes us responsible and have a big heart for the environment, because the only constant that continues to make life beautiful is the environment. So we, in our own capacity, are going to schools, donating to them 3 dustbins with color codes to be able to practice education at that level. Because we believe that when young people understand this change we are talking about here, in 10 years, we'll have the results visible on our streets. It might take less of AMA or even government in itself to put in structures, because people will then see why they have to do what they need to do. Because first of all, we are letting people understand that oxygen is produced by trees. And therefore, if you are cutting down trees, you should know that you are cutting down your lifespan in itself. So aside from that also, we're also engaging in public educations where we go out there with our projectors depicting possibilities. If you see the street of Accra and it looks dirty, what is the option? How does it look at other places? So we show graphics of what it looks like elsewhere and what we have here. And then we all should begin to understand that, to be honest, malaria is not scared of anybody, and malaria can bring the whole life equation to a simple end because of a simple mosquito. So when we begin to engage people on a direct level, on, let me say, a patriotic level, because in all of this conversation, without patriotism and nationalism at heart, people who have the will to even make the policies will make policies that will favor them. But if we are all looking at nationalism as the end goal, then we will deliberately begin to raise people who are doing national stuff to be able to inspire a younger generation to step in and, be a bit selfless, because the truth is, one man's success cannot define a nation. It's a collective success of all of us that will make us a great nation. And we must also understand that the foundation to a better Ghana has foundations or has rules that we need to follow. And number one of that rules that will even drive a better economy is our sanitation. I want to cite an example of flooding at China Mall at Shama Motorway. The whole basement of the whole beautiful structure got flooded. If I am an investor and I sit elsewhere and I watch videos of Ghana and how flooding is quickly running over everything, I will not invest in this economy. Because I believe that sanitation is the foundation towards a better Ghana. And to be honest, if we don't get our sanitation right and we're able to fight it to $1, we our economy suffer, because we are going to spend more, which eventually bring the whole economic conversation back to zero. So sanitation is the end goal, and sanitation is the starter towards any conversation sustainability. And we need to deliberately put young people in this game or this conversation, because we form the majority.
Honorable Nana Oyebampo, Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Your Majesty, Ojiahokwo Yao JB II, Paramount Chief of Sefi Ahioso Traditional Area and President of the National House of Chiefs, Your Majesty, King Takite Kutsu II, Gamanche and President of the Ghana Traditional Council,